Welcome back, friends, to another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. Let me look at my notes here. Pam has 4 children. 2 of them are adopted. 1 has type 1 diabetes. Her name is Emma. She's had type 1 for 3 years. She also has PCOS and insulin resistance. They tried Ozempic, but, well, what am I saying? But I'm going to tell you all about it in the podcast episode. Not going to ruin the whole thing here for you. Please don't forget that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. When you place your first order for AG1 with my link, you'll get 5 free travel packs and a free year's supply of vitamin D. Drink ag1.com/juicebox. Don't forget to save 40% off of your entire order at CozyEarth.com. All you have to do is use the offer code JUICEBOX at checkout. That's JUICEBOX at checkout to save 40% at CozyEarth.com. I know that Facebook has a bad reputation, but please give the private Facebook group for the Juicebox Podcast a healthy once-over. Juicebox Podcast, Type 1 Diabetes. Today's episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by the Contour NextGen blood glucose meter. This is the meter that my daughter has on her person right now. It is incredibly accurate and waiting for you at contournext.com/juicebox. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by the Eversense CGM. Eversense is going to let you break away from some of the CGM norms you may be accustomed to. No more weekly or bi-weekly hassles of sensor changes. Never again will you be able to accidentally bump your sensor off. You won't have to carry around CGM supplies. And worrying about your adhesive lasting? Well, that's a thing of the past. EversenseCGM.com/juicebox. Type 1 diabetes can happen at any age. Are you at risk? Screen it like you mean it. Because if just one person in your family has type 1, you're up to 15 times more likely to get it too. So screen it like you mean it. One blood test can help you spot it early. And the more you know, the more you can do. So don't wait. Talk to your doctor about screening. Tap now or visit screenfortype1.com to get more info. And screen it like you mean it.
I'm Pam. I am the mother of an 18-year-old girl who was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in April, actually almost exactly 3 years ago, April 2021. We have 4 kids. We live in Montana. 2 of our kids are adopted. That's the gist of it.
That's the shakedown. Isn't it, Pam, isn't it upsetting when you list your life out like that and you go, oh, no, that's it, I guess.
Well, I mean, that's the tip of the iceberg. We'll definitely go deeper into all of that, I'm sure.
You know how, like, in your heart, you're like, I'm living this exciting life. And you're like, I have 4 kids. I'm in Montana. A couple of them are adopted. One of them got diabetes. I mean, are we done?
Yeah, exactly. Can we stop now?
Yeah. This is enough. Happy podcast. It's over.
Right.
This is why Scott, pivots 15 minutes into it and talks about something that has nothing to do with diabetes for a while. Your daughter has type 1, is that right?
Yes.
Is she the oldest?
She is the 3rd child.
Oh.
So our oldest is 25. He's biological, had him the old-fashioned way.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had always wanted to adopt, and we were not having any luck getting pregnant again. So we went through, just made the decision to adopt. We went through the state, actually, which is usually not recommended if you want to adopt a baby, because that's not really the state's job. They're, becoming a licensed foster parent, the goal is always for the state to reunite children with their parents.
Yeah.
But our son came into our life in a very interesting way. We live in Montana. It's pretty rural. He was surrendered under the safe haven law when he was 2 days old, which is a law that allows a birth mom to surrender her child to a police station.
A police station or firehouse, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And she can stay anonymous to the court. So I got a phone call on a Wednesday afternoon. We have a 2-day-old newborn. He's perfectly healthy, highly probable he'll be adopted. Are you interested? I about dropped the phone. My 4.5-year-old was sitting on the couch watching cartoons, and I'm like, "You're getting a baby brother today, like in a couple hours."
I would have thought longer about this, kids, if you asked me for a cat. But,
right.
Yeah, but here we go. Let's go get a baby. Oh, wow. So at that point, you have 2 kids.
Yep.
The 25-year-old is the oldest, and that's a boy.
And then there's a 4.5-year age gap because we went through all that process of trying to get pregnant and then adoption. So our next oldest son is 20, soon to be 21. He's a sophomore in college.
Then your first
college baseball, actually.
Oh, hold on, we'll get to that. And then your first adopted is this one you're telling the story about.
Yep. So he's adopted, and then he was a couple years old, and it was weird timing. Actually, I just lost my mom. It was 2005, but for some reason we had the baby bug again, and called the state and said put us back on the list. And so I think we waited a little bit longer that time with our son. It was pretty fast process, actually, from the time they licensed us to that phone call was like a week. Huh. So that was kind of crazy. But
well, yeah, they got you marked as sucker on the list. They're like,
yeah, they did. Well, actually, it was like we were so specific. We want a baby, highly probable to be adopted, and they're like, this is never going to happen. And then it happened right away. Everybody was kind of shocked because that had never happened. I think it was only the second time in our state that had ever happened. The first time in our town. So
wow.
It was
amazing. How do you wild. Can I ask how you like living in Montana? Have you always lived there?
I was born here, yep, which is kind of a big deal to people for some reason. If you're native Montanan, that's kind of different than if you moved here from somewhere else. I grew up about 2 hours from where we live right now.
Okay.
So I love Montana. It's always, people will get mad at me for talking about it because people who are native Montanans don't want people to know that it's an awesome place to live.
Wyoming has that problem too, because of the Yellowstone TV show, right?
Yeah, and that's true
right.
for Montana as well. Yeah. It's become popular, especially since COVID, and a lot of people have decided this is where they want to live. So it's driven the housing prices, especially the town we live in. We live in one of the more expensive towns. Thankfully, we purchased our home in 1999, long before COVID.
All this happened. Well, you'll be able to sell it to an overpaid white lady at some point. That'll be nice.
At some point.
Yeah, good for you. By the way, if you make a lot of money, I'm not judging you. I'm just trying to be funny.
I don't.
Yeah. No, not you.
We're lucky.
I mean the people listening, Pam. Like if they're
right.
Yeah. I'm like, listen, if you're wealthy, like right on. I mean, you should send me money. I'm all right with you completely. Yeah. But that's 100%. What happens, right? It's sort of oddly gentrifying, even though it's probably an already reasonably gentrified place. And somebody comes in who's just much more well off than the people living there, and they drive up the prices and everything. And then people who live there can't afford anything. Yeah.
There's been a lot of tension around that issue. So,
all this so they can go skiing and do their marijuana in the mountains. Yeah.
Yep. Or something like that.
Pam, I said do their marijuana to be funny, and you just were like, yep, that's what they're doing. They're up here smoking and spending their money.
It's legal now, and I can smell it when I'm out on my walk, so I know what's happening.
Oh, my God. Yeah. There are places you go for a walk in, like, cities, and you're like, I'm going to get high trying to get to the CVS.
Right.
No kidding. So one of your adopted kids got type 1.
Yeah, so... Yeah, we called the state. We let them know we were wanting to get put back on the list. And within 6 months, we had another phone call, newborn baby boy or girl. She was still in the hospital. She'd just been born, and they were removing her and putting her in foster care because her parents had 4 kids before her that had been placed in foster care several months before she was born, and they were failing on their treatment plan. And so they placed her in foster care because it didn't look good.
Well, they're prolific.
Yeah. So they did have unlike with our son, that was almost like with him, it was almost free and clear. Like, here's your baby. You get to name him. Basically he's yours. The birth mom did have 60 days that she could have changed her mind. But I knew in my heart, like, she had made a decision about what she was doing. But in the case with our daughter, they were given, 6 months to work a treatment plan. We had to take her to visits. They were in parenting classes, doing different things to get her back. And unfortunately, they failed pretty quickly. When she was 6 months old, they left town, basically. So
what's that like for you and your husband and your family to, you take her, right, with the hope in your heart that you can adopt her, But
Yeah.
you can't come at it from that perspective for 6 months because, I mean, you'd be a monster, right? Like if you were actively cheering against the parents. I'm also imagining that as you have these visits, you're learning, I don't think this is a good place for this baby to be. So how do you walk that line between not wanting those people to fail and thinking it's probably better for her if they do? This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by the Eversense CGM. EversenseCGM.com/juicebox. The Eversense CGM is the only long-term CGM with 6 months of real-time glucose readings, giving you more convenience, confidence, and flexibility. And you didn't hear me wrong. I didn't say 14 days. I said 6 months. So if you're tired of changing your CGM sensor every week, you're tired of it falling off or the adhesive not lasting as long as it should or the sensor failing before the time is up, if you're tired of all that, you really owe it to yourself to try the Eversense CGM. EversenseCGM.com/juicebox. I'm here to tell you that if the hassle of changing your sensors multiple times a month is just more than you want to deal with, if you're tired of things falling off and not sticking or sticking too much or having to carry around a whole bunch of extra supplies in case something does fall off, then taking a few minutes to check out EversenseCGM.com/juicebox might be the right thing for you. When you use my link, you're supporting the production of the podcast and helping to keep it free and plentiful. EversenseCGM.com/juicebox. From the very beginning, your kids mean everything to you. That means you do anything for them, especially if they're at risk. So when it comes to type 1 diabetes, screen it like you mean it. Now, up to 90% of type 1 diagnoses have no family history. But if you have a family history, you are up to 15 times more likely to develop type 1. Screen it like you mean it because type 1 diabetes can develop at any age. And once you get results, you can get prepared for your child's future. So screen it like you mean it. Type 1 starts long before there are symptoms, but one blood test could help you spot it early before they need insulin and could lower the risk of serious complications like diabetic ketoacidosis or DKA. Talk to your doctor about how to screen for type 1 diabetes because the more you know, the more you can do. So don't wait. Tap now or visit screenedfortype1.com to learn more. Again, that's screenedfortype1.com and screen it like you mean it.
Yeah, that's exactly how you feel. You feel conflicted inside because one part of you is grieving for these parents that have now lost their 5th child and they just can't seem to get it together, hold a job, have any kind of stability. They're, other things you've heard about neglect that's happened with other kids and stuff like that. It was hard. It was very hard. I felt very protective of her right from the start. So I don't think I was a very good foster parent. I have friends that have done a lot of foster care and they're really good at it. Like they're good at communicating with the birth parents. They're good at, that process of reuniting. And I wasn't honestly really very good at it. I was really concerned.
Was it conscious, Pam, or was it just maybe subconscious from your desire to have the right thing happen?
I think it was from my desire to have the right thing happen. I was consciously very protective of her.
Okay.
It was hard. When she was born, she was sick. She had this congestion that wouldn't clear up. And when she was 4 months old, she had to go on an antibiotic and that cleared it up. And we don't know what caused that, but she right away at 5 months old started with wheezing and was diagnosed with asthma, actually. So even when she wasn't sick, she was wheezing and she had pretty severe asthma. So, and then I don't know, all of her health issues, right off the bat, contributed to me being nervous about her going back into a neglectful situation. Because I'm they were both smokers. She has really severe asthma. She's got all these things going on.
Was the mother high or drunk during the pregnancy, do you think?
They said that they didn't think so, other than probably some prescription drug use is what I was told from the social worker. Not so much alcohol or recreational drugs, but prescription drugs.
I see. Okay, how old is she when she's diagnosed with type 1? Just 3 years ago?
Yep, 15.
3 years ago. Before we get to that, I'd like to ask, how much of her birth parents' reality do you share with her? And do you spread it out over time? Do you drop it all like a novel? How do you do it?
Yeah, great question. So both of our adopted kids, from before they could talk, we would talk to them and like at their age level, what we felt like they could understand. Like, you were in another mommy's tummy, and then, whatever, like wherever their age level was. Both of them, when they were around 8 and 10 years old, had just this flood of questions that was coming out of both of them constantly. And I always answered them honestly with whatever question that they had. So we've always been pretty open about it.
So it's fair to say your daughter knows that her parents were like addicted and had given up a number of children. Has she ever gone to look for siblings?
Yep. She just recently found them.
Is that something you're comfortable talking about, or do you feel more like that's her story? Yeah.
I think it's very interesting. It's interesting how they're different.
Yeah. How so?
Well, like my son, he had questions. And at one point he was like, can I see picture? Because at first his birth mom was anonymous to the court, but then our local newspaper did a story about him when he was a year old. And then she wanted to meet us. So her and I do have not like a close relationship, but we're friends on social media. Like I know who she is and we've met a few times. Mm-hmm. So it would be an easy thing for me to introduce him to her, but he's just had less curiosity other than what does she look like, just kind of more general questions. But for him, it hasn't been that like nagging, I need to know. But with my daughter, I think she's had that her whole life. Even like, when she was 13, she went through the whole, I'm going to run away and go live with my birth family phase. Mm-hmm. And all of that. But the week she turned 18, she was absolutely determined to figure it out. And she kind of did it on her own. She just got on social media and like found her older birth sibling on Facebook. That sent her a message. She said, I think I'm your sister. And they started communicating, and she is her older birth sister. So that opened up the door to her connecting with both her birth mom and dad, who are no longer married, but they're still living. And then other siblings. So
did they ever pull themselves together?
They are divorced, which in my mind is kind of actually a positive for them, because from the sounds of it, he's abusive.
Okay.
And so I do think that she's better. Like, she had 2 more kids. The older one, after my daughter, is adopted. She ended up in foster care and being adopted by a family, but now she has like an 8-year-old that she's actually raising, and she's living with her mother. It sounds like she's got support and she's sober, and
wow.
So that was good to learn.
Yeah, that's a long. She had 7 children before she kept one of them. Is that right?
4, 5, 6 before she kept one. Yeah,
I got that right. Look at me.
Yeah.
People who say I don't pay attention, I listen.
Right.
Right. Actually, nobody says I don't pay attention. I'm worried that I'm not listening. I'm trying so hard to listen to you and to think about where I want to go with the conversation at the same time. Yeah. Sometimes I'm worried I'm not listening. Okay. So you told her, because I'm adopted. You might know that from listening. I've known I'm adopted for as long as I can recall. I've never not known. I have never once had a feeling of like, oh, I got to go find these people. Yeah. My wife made me for like, medical background stuff, made me. Mm-hmm. That doesn't sound right, but it's accurate.
Okay.
It doesn't sound right, but it's an accurate assessment of what happened.
Yep.
She made me do it. It's never what you're hoping. It's never like, oh, my birth mom probably just didn't have enough time between being like, the Princess of Wales and her other philanthropic endeavors to take care of me. Like it doesn't usually work out like that. And mine certainly didn't either. Once I got the information that Kelly wanted, I was like, I am no interest in this. And as a matter of fact, I will frequently forget my birth mother's name. Like I have trouble recalling it when I need it sometimes.
Yeah.
It just is. I couldn't possibly, and I'm so sorry for her, even though she's passed, but it couldn't possibly make less. I don't know. I don't care. It's not out of animosity or anything like that. I feel like I've had a full life with the people who raised me and my brothers and, and everything else.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for a hanger on or whatever it would end up being. So she gets type 1. Do you have the ability to go to the family and say, hey, is there any of this in your family line? Or you can't really reach out like that, right? The Contour NextGen blood glucose meter is the meter that we use here. Arden has one with her at all times. I have one downstairs in the kitchen, just in case I want to check my blood sugar. And Arden has them at school. They're everywhere that she is. ContourNext.com/juicebox. Test strips and the meters themselves may be less expensive for you in cash out of your pocket than you're paying currently through your insurance for another meter. You can find out about that and much more at my link, ContourNext.com/juicebox. Contour makes a number of fantastic and accurate meters, and their second chance test strips are absolutely my favorite part. What does that mean? If you go to get some blood and maybe you touch it and, I don't know, stumble with your hand and like slip off and go back, it doesn't impact the quality or accuracy of the test. So you can hit the blood, not get enough, come back, get the rest without impacting the accuracy of the test. That's right. You can touch the blood, come back and get the rest, and you're going to get an absolutely accurate test. I think that's important because we all stumble and fumble at times. That's not a good reason to have to waste a test strip. And with the Contour NextGen, you won't have to. ContourNext.com/juicebox. You're going to get a great reading without having to be perfect.
Not until recently. I mean, I had no idea how to find them. I guess I could have done the social media thing too. And we actually did every once in a while. We, try to find them on social media, but not until she just found them. Mm-hmm. And she did ask. And it sounds like there was some on her birth father's side with his parents. I think one of them is type 1. There was like a couple people on his side of the family
that had type 1. Yeah. So you got that at least.
Yeah.
What was her diagnosis like? How did you begin to notice it, and what did you guys do?
So she was sick for about 3 months with this sinus infection that we just could not cure. She could not get over it. We'd go to the doctor. She'd take an antibiotic. A couple weeks later, we'd be back at the doctor again. And I kept thinking, what on earth is going on? Like, why can we not get rid of this sinus infection? And then her doctor finally referred her to an ENT, and they did a CAT scan. And of course, her sinuses are all clogged up, and they said she needed to have sinus surgery. So the ENT prescribed a steroid, put her on prednisone, and another antibiotic, which at this point I think was the 5th antibiotic that she'd been on. And I told her, I warned her, she's got ADHD as well. I've been on prednisone, and it usually really gets you wired. Like, you can't sleep, you've got all this energy. And so I was telling her, you're probably going to be like full of energy. And she's texting me from school, I can't stay awake, I'm falling asleep. And so one night we were just sitting around the dinner table, and it was actually kind of fun because my son and his wife just stopped in, which is not something they do very often. Usually when we get together, it's like planned, and they've just been out for a bike ride and stopped by. And my daughter's laying on the couch, and she's like, little tears are just coming down her cheeks, and her lips are kind of turning blue. And I'm like, she didn't have a lot of air coming out. Like, she couldn't really talk. And I thought, oh my gosh, she's having an anaphylactic reaction to this antibiotic. So I called 911, I think, or the nurse. I can't remember which. I think I called the nurse first. And she said, can she say your name really clearly? Like, can she say mom with air? And I said, no, she's really not able to do that. She said, hang up, call 911. So Jeez. I call the EMTs. What's that?
I just said, geez, it made me sad for a second. What you said. Yeah, it just hit me. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So the EMTs come in, they check her out. She kind of started to perk up. Like, she was okay. Her oxygen was okay. So they said, it's all right. If you take her, you can take her up to the emergency room. She doesn't need to go in the ambulance. So I took her up. They treated her for anaphylaxis. Although I would say the ER doctor, he was a little stumped. He said, I think it probably is anaphylaxis. Like, I don't know what else it could be. So she's getting pumped full of epinephrine, more steroids. We didn't leave the ER until 2:00 in the morning. And that night, and probably maybe for a few days prior, I did notice she was drinking a lot of water. And normally I have to bug her about drinking water. And she kept handing me her mug to go fill up with ice and more water. And I'm like, man, she's really been dropping weight. And got discharged at 2:00 in the morning, went to the only pharmacy that was still open at that time. We had one 24-hour pharmacy and picked up a EpiPen, got home, and they said, follow up with your primary care pediatrician tomorrow.
Right.
I called to make that appointment. I was actually kind of waffling, like, I'm so tired. We've just been up all night. Like, could we wait a couple days? But I had like that nagging feeling like we need to go in today and follow up with this. And I jokingly said to my daughter before we left the house, I said, I'm going to get you tested for diabetes, cystic fibrosis. Like, something is wrong here. This isn't just.
You picked all the crazy things you could think of to like blurt out. Like, yeah.
And poor child.
Maybe she thought you knew something later. She's like, oh, that lady was onto something. Yeah.
Now she credits me for her diagnosis over the doctor, which I do appreciate, because I do think I was more like the instigator of it. So
did you just wander in there and just randomly say a bunch of stuff out loud?
Well, we were talking about this allergic reaction she had to this antibiotic, and, do we need to see an allergist and blah, blah, blah. But I said at the start of the appointment, I said, I have noticed she's been drinking a lot of water and dropping weight. And the doctor looked at her chart and she's like, oh, she's lost 20 pounds in like the last 2 months.
Right.
And so she said, we'll do a finger prick before you leave. So the pediatrician leaves, sends in the nurse to do the finger prick. And she does her finger prick and her jaw just drops open. And I go, what is it? And she said, it's 595 with her blood sugar.
You knew what that meant?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I looked at my daughter and I said, it's not your fault. Like, I just felt like she just needed to know that right away.
Right.
It wasn't your fault. I texted my husband. I said, I think Emma's got diabetes. They just tested her blood sugar. And so the pediatrician came back in, and she just opens the door and she goes, you have diabetes. And she was like almost laughing. Like, I know it wasn't funny to her, but she knew everything we'd just been through for the last 3 months of like, she was scheduled. This was what day was it? I think it was a Thursday. She was scheduled for sinus surgery on Tuesday. So we were just a few days out from having sinus surgery.
Completely unnecessary surgery, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the pediatrician goes, cancel surgery. That isn't the issue. This has been the problem all along. This is why she hasn't been able to clear this infection. You're going to be admitted. We've got to send you back to the ER. And that made my daughter freak out, because she had just been in the ER the night before till 2:00 in the morning with IVs and all this stuff. And she just did not want to have to go back to the ER again second day in a row.
So the doctor was just like probably happy to find the answer, but it came off a little bit like, hey, oh my God, guys, guess what?
Right. Yeah. She's a wonderful doctor.
Yeah, no,
we love her. My daughter loves her, but yeah, she was like on some kind of an adrenaline high from that. I think, like, you have diabetes. Yeah.
Also, what a bummer about the steroids not giving it. I've never felt better in my life than when I'm on prednisone. I'm just, I know. I feel like but although I say that to my wife, and she's like, I don't feel like that in the times I've taken it. Huh. But my God, it makes me feel like I could like walk through a wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. Me too. Yeah.
Okay. So once you get her to the hospital and things get straightened out and everything, it's only 3 years ago. How do they start her care? Mm-hmm.
So they kept her overnight and just, slowly brought her blood sugar down. And then they discharged her that morning. We had to get to another town, which is 2 hours from where we live, right away to do orientation, because I think it was a Friday, but then that doctor was going out of town or something too. And she was the only pediatric endocrinologist like in our area. Mm-hmm. So they really wanted to get her out of the hospital so we could get on the road. So we had another pretty sleepless night, and then hit the road early in the morning, got to Billings, and spent a whole day with the team in Billings doing that orientation, which was fantastic. Honestly, it was really good, especially from listening to the podcast and hearing other people's experiences. I'm really grateful. Like, we got really good information right off the bat.
How much of this story is about things not being close to where you're going? Like, there's a lot of driving to get from place to place?
Initially, she was the only pediatric endo in our area for, I think we did 2 or 3 endo visits there that were, at her every 3-month visit. Yeah. And then we did get an endocrinologist in our town now. Okay. Which is really nice. So we don't have to travel anymore.
I have to tell you, this will be a bit of a left turn for a second, but I've been approached about doing an event out there next year.
Yeah. I saw that on Facebook.
I really hope it happens. Like, and I want to say that I think it will. And the person that approached me is a rock solid person. So I think it could happen. But if things go well, maybe 6 months after this comes out, or maybe the summer after your episode comes out, there's going to be like a Juicebox Podcast event, like a few day event out in the Montana area, where if all goes to my planning, it'll be myself, Jenny, Erica, maybe,
Nice.
and we're going to put on an event for people with diabetes that lasts a couple days.
It'll be great. You'll love it.
Yeah.
You'll love it here.
And then I'll
You'll wanna
stay
move
and
here.
ruin the place like everybody else who comes and poaches your wonderful land. Actually,
Exactly.
let me be clear. The minute it snows, I'd run out of there like a baby. So
That will happen.
yeah.
Guaranteed.
If unless I'm in the financial position to be a snowbird, I'm not living in Montana, because I'd have to get the hell out of there very quickly.
That is the safeguard that we have. It definitely keeps some people away for sure.
Oh, keep me away. Don't you worry. It would have kept me. It would have kept me away if for any number of reasons. Like, are there snakes?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Are there rattlesnakes?
There's rattlesnakes.
Oh yeah. Then I'm not. I don't live
in
there.
my
Then.
town, but yeah.
How do you know? I don't live there. Then that's that. Okay.
There was a black bear that wandered through my son's high school its freshman year in the morning before school started.
Through the
Just wandering
building?
down the hall. Yep.
Yeah. See, you don't got to worry about me. I'm good. Like, I'd much rather be killed by urban blight than a black bear, in case you're wondering.
I could tell you all the amazing things too.
Oh.
That's why people live here. It's the other side of that. But yeah.
Go ahead and tell me that, and then say rattlesnake afterwards and see if I don't just leave. So I'll just watch Yellowstone, thank you. Unless fucking Kevin Costner ruins it. Have you read?
Oh, that's no, what?
Oh, he got into a fight with the creator or something, and I think they're going to ruin the whole show over it.
Oh, that's not surprising.
Come on, Costner. We're all having fun here. You know what I mean? Oh, it's a lot. I know he's old, but it can't be that goddamn hard to make Yellowstone, can it? Like, he just sits on a porch, it looks like, and says shit under a gravelly voice every once in a while, and they're paying him. Like, I'll do that if he can't. I don't think I'd be as good at it. I'm not quite as handsome as Kevin Costner is, but not the point. If he ruins this show, I'm going to be really pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm enjoying it.
He's interesting.
He's interesting. I don't know
He's
who he is.
interesting.
All I know is he got all like uppity, and then they got uppity back with him. The next thing you know, two rich people are pissing at each other. And I'm like, just make the goddamn TV show so I can watch it and stop. I'm trying to live my life over here. I can't be worried about Kevin Costner's problems. but I was for days. For days, I'm walking around telling people, is Costner going to mess this TV show up for me? And I don't know. I got very upset. Obviously, as you could tell. But my plan is to come out, do the event, and then spend a few days and actually go see the park and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to try to make a thing out of it and then get the hell out of there before it gets too hot.
Yeah.
As most lovely places are either too hot or too cold. Yours gets both things. Is that correct?
Yeah. This winter was pretty mild compared to last year. Actually, it really wasn't. Well, from my scale, it wasn't too bad.
Just a few feet of snow?
I don't think we had that much. I mean, over the whole winter, yeah. But we never had like these big dumps like we did last year. In the summers where we live, it does get warm, but we're in the mountains, so it really cools off at night. Like, we don't have air conditioning. We live in a condo. We don't need air conditioning.
You don't have air conditioning. Now, is this you don't have air conditioning like those hippies in Vermont who need air conditioning but don't have it, or you actually don't need it?
We don't need it. There's usually about a week or two in the summer where I'm like, I wish we had air conditioning, but we got some fans and
that's about it.
Yeah. I mean, it cools off to the 40s, 50s at night.
Oh, okay. All right. That's fine. Yeah. You people in Vermont are out of your minds. I don't know what hippy dippy shit you're doing over there, but it's hot there and you need air conditioning and none of them have it. It's very upsetting. I went to Vermont once. It'll never happen again.
Yeah. That's rough.
Well, at least not in the, who am I lying to? I wouldn't go in the winter because of the snow. I can't go in the summer because there's no air conditioning. I mean, there's probably 2 months in the spring I could deal with Vermont, which was, by the way, lovely, except for its lack of ability to condition the air. This is neither here nor there. I'm sorry I've gotten us off of track.
Interesting.
That's interesting. Pam likes the podcast, so I'm comfortable rambling to her because I know she enjoys it.
Yep.
When your daughter, Emma, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when she's diagnosed, is she rocked? Does she bounce back quickly? Like, what are those first few months like?
She bounced back really fast. She had a great attitude right out the gate. You know, she just understood insulin is a lifesaver and I need it. She had no no shame, like no embarrassment at all going to school. We were MDI for a few months from our choice, like just took us a while to decide on a pump and all of that. She really had a fantastic attitude for the first few months. And I knew it, I'm like, one of these days, this is going to really hit her. But
Right.
it's actually sucks. And it's a lifelong condition and it's not going away. So,
yeah. So after that initial, like, I got this feeling goes away, then what happened? Yeah. What happened after that?
Oh, I don't know. It's been 3 years. I mean, the first year was rough. We were on the Dash. I was listening to the podcast, being bold with insulin, and which was good. She had a pretty long honeymoon period too, which was actually both kind of nice and also a pain in the butt, because you just don't know your insulin needs off the bat. But just diabetes, just highs and lows and losing sleep and pumps failing and CGMs failing, and it's exhausting. It's just an exhausting disease. And I think with her ADHD as well, just brought on a lot of mental fatigue and stuff like that. I don't know if it was in the first year or the second. I think it was the second year. Last year, she really did have some like real mental health issues. She's doing a lot better now. She struggled last year a lot. She started having a lot of anxiety, which we were like, is this something to do with her ADHD, and the medication she's on can have the side effect of having anxiety. So she got prescribed an antidepressant, which made her completely suicidal.
Did she have actual ideation?
Only for a day. And thankfully she was texting me. I mean, she was completely like not hiding it at all. She's like, I just want to overdose on insulin. It was like this one day where she was like, I just want to kill myself.
Okay.
And I thought, I don't think this medication is working.
we might want to stop this one.
Yeah, I don't think this is good. So we called the doctor, who then called a psychiatrist for some consult, and then let us know, turns out that this particular antidepressant mixed with her ADHD medication can make you suicidal. Like,
really? No one brought that up?
Yeah, too bad we didn't know that before we just...
Well, isn't that... I believe that's what pharmacists are supposed to do. They're supposed to look for, like, drug interactions.
That would have been nice. I don't know. It just got missed under the radar. So we were in that process for a few months. At this point now, she's not on any antidepressants. We just lowered her dose of her Vyvanse, is what she takes for ADHD. And that has she's fine. Like, she's not having overwhelming anxiety. And the other thing we did, this is her senior year right now. She's going to graduate here in like 42 days. My husband's been counting down the days. The first semester of this school year, we really limited how many hours she could work. She was working a lot last year as well. I think that was contributing to some of the mental fatigue of school, working a job, diabetes.
Yeah.
It was just all too much. So we kind of put up a little bit more of a boundary this year for her, and she's really bounced back, and she's doing pretty good. Not
that there's anything wrong with this, but why was she working so much? She's saving for something, or
she's kind of a workaholic, maybe. I don't know. She's just a worker, and I've known that her whole life. I think that's part of how her ADHD manifests. She just likes to be busy. She likes to have something to do. She likes to make money. So some of it was just her drive, and then like everywhere, everybody's short-staffed, so she wouldn't be scheduled, but then she'd get called in, so then she's picking up extra shifts, and
she's hustling.
It just kind of snowballed. So we kind of she had to quit that job, actually, because that wasn't going to get any better.
Okay. Now, like, beyond all that, like today, where would you say she's at? Like, with her management, her outcomes, how she feels about the whole thing?
I mean, she still has some maturing and some growth for sure. She's not, I'm not concerned. Like, I don't feel like she's in a really unhealthy place, but she definitely is still, she'll jokingly say pretty often, like, I quit. The other day she tried handing me her T-Slim. She's like, you can just throw this in the garbage.
I'm done.
She's kidding.
I'm done with the
kidding. But, yeah.
It's good. It's over.
Yeah. Yeah. She was recently also diagnosed with PCOS. And that's a pain in the butt, because that's like having insulin resistance and type 1. And that's been
Arden's managing that with the GLP medication.
Yeah. So we just had our third shot of Ozempic
Oh,
a week ago, and she was in the ER this week. I don't think it's going to work.
why? What happened?
She got really sick, just really bad nausea and stomach pain and vomiting, and
How much Ozempic was she taking?
the lowest dose.
0.25.
Mm-hmm.
Did they talk to you about trying Mounjaro instead?
Not yet. I just sent the endo an email yesterday and said we're stopping this. It's not working.
A lot of the side effects from Ozempic don't seem to exist as much with Mounjaro.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sorry
we'll have to ask about that.
was she seeing like less insulin need?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we were having some kind of serious hypos actually, but we were kind of prepared for that. Yeah, we had a cut down. Even just in 3 weeks, we cut down her insulin quite a bit, but she was also nauseous and not really eating.
So as soon as she shot it, she felt nauseous, but the nausea didn't pass.
It did not pass.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And this last week was worse. Like it's supposed to kind of level off and kind of get better. And it got worse. We were in the ER Friday for fluids because she just was so sick.
I'm sorry. No, that sucks. Yeah, no. Yeah. I mean, listen, I don't know if Mounjaro would be better. Mounjaro. There's no N in there, right? Mounjaro. I don't know. Who cares? But I have heard, I mean, my doctor even said, there's fewer side effects that I'm seeing with my patients with this to that.
That's good to know.
Yeah. I don't know if she's up for trying it one more time or not, but maybe after she feels a little better. Because
after she has a break.
Yeah. So who knows? But I'm sorry because it can be so valuable for the insulin resistance that comes with PCOS and some of the other side effects.
Yeah, I was really hopeful because she's not big on like with metformin. She just she doesn't like to take pills every day. That also kind of made her nauseous. She did put on some weight in the last year. So there's just a lot of things. I thought, man, this Ozempic could be like the magic ticket here. It's only one shot a week.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It still may be, just might have had the wrong one. I'm so sorry. Tell her I'm sorry. I wish that would have gone better for you.
Let her know.
Because it's working for so many different people, honestly.
Yeah.
That sucks. Yeah, because the metformin also could be an answer. And you need to find an answer because the PCOS will be like, it's a lifelong struggle. It's finding something that battles with it would be really valuable for her.
Yeah.
So she took it, she felt nauseous, and then she ate and she'd vomit.
Yep. She'd throw up what she ate, or she just wouldn't eat. And then, of course, she wouldn't drink a lot because she was so nauseous. She felt like if I drink, I'm going to puke. I had a couple scary lows. One of them, I was actually out of town. It was quite frightening. She got really low in the middle of the night. And the job that she has right now, we've been kind of trying to figure out her management with that because she started a job as a caretaker. So she's doing like 15,000 steps at work. And she was having these adrenaline highs and then these crashes in the middle of the night. And we've switched to activity mode and that seems to be working. So we haven't been having as many severe lows at night, thankfully. But this one night we were gone out of town for a wedding and she was home and I was on the phone with her, of course, through the whole thing, but she was having a really hard time getting the carbs to get back up with how nauseous she was. And she said, I need to go to the bathroom. I'm going to leave the phone here and I'll be right back. And it took a while for her to come back. I was starting to get nervous and she came back and she said, I just puked. And I was like, oh man.
Yeah, we need the carbs in, not out. Yeah,
we got to take care of this. So a friend came over. It was 2 a.m. It's her boyfriend, actually, but he saved her life, I think, because she needed help at that point. I think he got her a bowl of ice cream, and I don't know. Oh no, I know what it was. I said, go fill a bowl with some sugar, just straight sugar, and have her lick her finger and rub the sugar on her cheek.
Yeah.
And she just needs the sugar, and that's what they did. So
wow, oh my gosh, yeah, I would stop using the Ozempic too. That's not.
I was like, I think we're done.
Yeah, that's enough of that. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if the other one would be more valuable for her or not. But if not, I'm sorry, and I hope something else. There's other stuff being developed. There's pills they're working on, and like all different kinds of ideas around this. The impacts that you're getting from GLP. So hopefully they'll find a way to help people who are reacting poorly to the injection at this point.
Gotta get better,
Yeah.
I think. Because even when we went to the ER, they weren't too surprised. And I almost felt like both the doctor and the nurse were kind of like, are you sure you want her on this drug right now? Like, we're seeing a lot of this here in the ER. And
it sucks because obviously I wouldn't want that to happen to you or anybody else or her. But at the same time, we're seeing a lot of this in the ER right now. Yeah, of course you are. You're the ER. So that's where people who are having trouble go.
Right.
Are you seeing any of the people who are thriving on it? No. Oh, yeah. Interesting. Like it's almost like when they like, oh, there's been. I actually heard somebody say the other day, we had to fact check her online, but she said something like, 42% of people who got COVID got type 1 diabetes, and I was like, that's not right at all.
That can't be right.
Like, you made that up. The person goes, no, a doctor told me. And I'm like, well, maybe a doctor said 42% of the people that I don't know, that have diabetes have had COVID. Like half the people who got COVID didn't get type 1 diabetes. Or there'd be hundreds of millions of people running. Yeah. Like, there's like 1.8 million people with type 1 diabetes in America. And I mean, between me and you, I don't know how many people had COVID, but I bet you it was more than 4 million.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not great at math, but I can figure that one out.
My thinker don't think about math great, but that sounds wrong.
Right.
Yeah. It's funny how people respond to, well, I'm seeing a lot of, and I'm like, oh yeah, you do see a lot of trash. You're the trash man. It's, interesting. Oh, people are throwing this stuff away constantly. Okay. Like, anyway.
Yeah, she's definitely going to need something. Her insulin needs before this were tremendous. And she did just have knee surgery as well before we started the Ozempic. And after the knee surgery, she was going through 200 units of insulin a day.
Holy hell. So aside from the problems she had, what was her decrease like on the Ozempic? I know it didn't work for her, but what insulin decrease did she see?
Well, she's on T-Slim. So, and I still have not yet quite figured out how to get in there and look at what's happening with her basal rates and all of that. But we did have to switch her pretty much 24/7 into activity mode. Otherwise, she was really going low. And then.
Yeah. So you think you haven't learned how to get into the T-Slim settings yet, but.
She was been running it in activity mode most of the time since starting the Ozempic, just to not have those hypos. And then we did finally get in there and edit it a few days ago. And I think she said she was at 3 units an hour, and we bumped it down to 1.5.
Yeah, see, that's so significant.
So that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would have been more as she moved on with it too, very likely. Does she have weight to lose?
Yeah.
Yeah, so her weight would have come down. Her needs would have dropped farther. Hey, listen, again, I know she's been through a thing, and it very well might not be the answer, but I don't know. If it was my kid and this happened to her, I'd be like, take a breath. Then we're going to try like
something else.
Mounjaro. If it doesn't work, fair enough. But like, let's give it a whirl, because look at what I mean, honestly, like 3 units an hour is, she's going to end up in a situation where, at the very least, it just looks like she has insulin resistance, probably from the PCOS.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And you just want that alleviated. It's going to be a lifetime of a hassle if not. So, I'm sorry. Why can't everything be easy?
I know. I know.
But you're probably getting your unfair share of beauty in Montana, and therefore the world is trying to take back from you. Yeah. To balance things out a little bit.
Yeah. A few months ago, my sister, who I love, she's 14 years older than me, she was visiting us, and she was looking at me, she goes, you guys have had such a charmed life. And at first I thought, we have, like that's a nice thought. And then the more I think about it, like, I don't think she's seen the whole picture here. Actually, it's not horrible, but like, there's been some rough things, like some really hard stuff.
Yeah. I think everybody has stuff. And then other people's stuff always looks like easier than your stuff. So you're like, you've got it easy. What is your, like, if you thought about it, if you asked your sister to line up her complaints, do you know what they would, I'm not asking you what they are, but do you know what they would be?
Well, I don't think they'd be complaints necessarily. I think they'd be more like things that she sees as, we've had this, I don't know, we live in this nice town. We've got these nice kids. We've got a good marriage. I don't know. Maybe something along those lines.
Yeah. And her stuff doesn't match up with the things that are working out for you.
Maybe not.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Her kids robbing banks or anything like that?
No, definitely not.
You probably
pretty good kids.
If I tried to rob a bank in Montana, I'd get shot, right?
Oh, yeah, probably somebody else in the bank that's carrying.
Someone in the bank would definitely shoot me. They'd be like, "Oh, finally, I'm going to get to use this gun."
If they're not carrying it, it's out in the parking lot in their truck. So
I'm gonna have a person look at me and go, "Wait here. I've been waiting for this. Just please keep robbing the bank. I'll be right back."
Yep.
I gotcha.
Definitely.
At MR time. Hold on a second. I don't even know which gun to pull out. I have so many in my truck. Give me a second. Do you go hunting? Have you ever targeted a deer for extinction?
Yep.
Yeah.
I sure have.
Out in the cold. Oh yeah, no kidding. It sounds like so cold.
It's exhilarating. I hope I don't get a bunch of hate emails now.
Oh, tell me why. What's exhilarating about hunting down something and snuffing out its life, or what do you?
Yeah, I don't know. There's just something, I don't know, like you're foraging your own food. I don't know. It's a thrill. It's different than going to the grocery store and picking up a pound of hamburger, Like you went out and you had to hunt it. Like you had to sneak up on it. You had to aim correctly. I've shot 3 deer. That's how many I've harvested. My friend that I used to hunt with moved out of state, and I really haven't had time to figure out how to do it without her. But I really enjoyed the times I got to do it.
Just you two ladies out there looking for deer together?
Yep.
Yeah. Nice. Did you teach your kids how to hunt?
We tried. We took them through hunter safety. The interest hasn't been too high. My youngest son, he came out to the truck and saw the deer, the last deer I shot, and he burst into tears. So he's just this soft-hearted, animal-loving,
Yeah.
He's not going to hunt. There's no way he's not hunting. My college son, he likes to fish, and his friends are hunters. He's got a roommate that bird hunts a lot, but I don't know.
Have you heard that story ever? My son, when he was recruiting for college baseball, one of the teams tried to entice him by saying we all go on a hunting trip together. And my kid got off the phone. He's like, I got to fucking shoot something to play baseball. I'm not doing it. I'm like, okay.
That was not his school.
He's like, that's not for me. And I was like, gotcha. He goes, can you believe he tried to make that out like it was a selling point? And I was like, well, to some people it probably would be. Where does your son play ball?
Community college in Washington, Walla Walla Community College.
Oh, I know that one actually. And what year is he enjoying it?
Yeah, he's a sophomore. So he's had an interesting journey as well. He broke his hook hamate his senior year playing, but we didn't know it was broken. They did an x-ray and didn't see it. So he played on a broken handle his senior year, and that was when he got recruited and all of that. And then right before he left for college, we found out he needed surgery. He had already signed and everything with the school. So the coach was very understanding, and he healed up and was, training during the winter, getting ready for spring, and he's a switch hitter.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I don't know if I'm a hypochondriac, but my left hand is starting to feel the same way my right hand felt when I broke my hook hamate bone. Sure enough, he had broken the left one.
Oh, Pam, so that's a terrible baseball injury to have.
Yeah.
The hamate bone's a really bad injury to have. And he did heal from the first one, but now he had to have one in the other hand.
Yeah. So he medical redshirted his freshman year completely.
Mm-hmm. Came
home last summer, worked hard. We've got a nice facility here he could train at, and got back to school. Was so excited to be able to play this year. He's seen some innings. It's very competitive, as you know.
Yeah.
Even at the JUCO level, he's fighting for third base with 5 other kids, and he didn't perform great in a couple games, and he's kind of been benched, and now he's having some weird health issue that we're trying to figure out.
Really?
So yeah,
that kid gets diabetes. I'd give up if I was you. Yeah, and I would call my sister and be like, I want an apology right now for what you said to me. What health issues is he experiencing?
Well, I don't know if it's all connected. He's had chronic hives for a couple years, and we've seen an allergist for that. And he said it just happens. Take an allergy pill every day. Eventually it'll go away. And I think we need to go back and see that doctor again, because it's not.
You heard how that happened to my son, right?
No.
Oh, it ended up being thyroid.
Oh, okay. He had chronic hives, his skin, if he scratches his skin, he gets welts. and then they just stay there.
Cole would break out if his body warmed up.
Oh, I do remember hearing. You talk about
and
that.
then it ended up being his thyroid.
So this is all day long, every day, like not
no matter what,
or whatever.
But it's crazy.
Who knows? I think there's some mystery thing, but the last couple of weeks he's been throwing up bile, which is quite odd. So he went to urgent care. They ran a bunch of tests. Everything came back negative, and so now we're like, we need to progress and see a doctor. So the trainer's trying to get him in with a team doctor who apparently sees every athlete in Walla Walla for 2 schools. And it's been like 3 days and we haven't heard from him. So I texted him last night. I said, I think you just need to go back to urgent care today. And
if they pull blood again, for me, ask for a thyroid panel.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. Just tell him you heard it somewhere and it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Just run it. Just because if his TSH is high, you might have an answer there. The chronic urticaria is tough. Like, but because every doctor says the same thing. We don't know why that happens. Take a couple of over-the-counter, meds and it'll be okay. But there are people online, if you follow them, like they're bedridden from it. Like really, they can really significantly be, it could be nerves. It could be, maybe he's just upset about baseball. Baseball is very upsetting. You shouldn't do it.
It's so much pressure. It's so hard. He's a good student too. He's a straight A student. He works a job.
A lot of pressure.
Got a lot. He's got a lot on his plate.
Yeah, people might not realize. I guess you could imagine, but like playing baseball in college is insane. It's a lot of time and effort and pressure, and it just. And the truth is, if you could probably let any of those kids play and they'd be good if you just left them alone and let them do it. And instead, there's 4 kids, and you're trying to pretend one of them's better than the other. It's ridiculous. They're all pretty freaking good, especially at JUCO. Yeah. By the way, JUCO's good baseball. Had he played his whole life?
Yep.
Is he big?
Pretty much.
He got good size. Yeah.
He's okay. We're Yankees fans. I'll just admit that to you here. I know you're a Phillies fan.
My son's going to the Yankees game today, so you're not admitting anything to me. Don't worry about it. Yeah, gosh.
I'm sure we'll be watching it later. We don't miss too many. I've never been to a game actually in person because I live in Montana. They don't play here. He's about the same size as Anthony Volpe. Like every time I see Volpe up to bat, I'm like, that's Andrew. Even kind of bats like Volpe a little bit. He's got a good eye. And
I'm going to tell you something, Pam, that is going to make your pants fall to the ground and bounce back up again.
What?
Okay. My son played college baseball with the kid who played second base in high school for Anthony Volpe while he was playing shortstop.
Really? Fun.
Yeah, they're going to the Yankees game today to say hey to Anthony and watch the game.
Oh, man. Yeah. That's awesome.
Sorry.
He's a great kid. I love watching him play. He's a lot of fun.
He's undersized too, like for what he's accomplishing. He's leading off for the Yankees.
I think he and my son are almost the exact same size. 5'11", 190 pounds. Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah. Oh, anyway, Cole's friend Pat is very good friends with Anthony, and
that's cool.
They're heading to
it's
the game
such a
today.
Small world.
Yeah. I just couldn't believe you said, as you were saying it, I was like, there's no way she's going to say Anthony's name right now. And again, we were literally talking about him last night in the kitchen because Cole's like, I'm going to go to the game tomorrow with Pat, and we're going to say hey to Anthony and then watch the game. And I was like, oh, that sounds nice. He goes, I've never met him before. Like, what should I say to him? And I was like, I don't know. I said, you should tell him I can't believe these guys are your friends, terrible friends. And but yeah, they just played baseball in high school together. And then he was drafted out of high school, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's young. I don't think he's much older than my son. I don't think.
No, I mean, Cole's 24, so he's probably right around that age. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. Listen, baseball's great.
Yeah.
Until you get caught up in the system, then it's like everything else. And it's unpleasant. Maybe you have this experience, maybe you haven't. I kept waiting for it to stop. Like when they were little and it was like daddy ball, I thought, oh, when they get out of little league, that'll stop. And then they got into travel ball and I thought, it didn't stop here. That's okay. And then they got to college and I was like, well, it's obviously going to stop now. Didn't stop then. I was like, oh my God, this is fascinating. Just the impactors changed. In college, it was, my dad made a donation that paid for a building. And so I play like that, and when they were 12, it was, my dad's the coach, so I play. And it just was fascinating. Cole at one point played for a guy who I know for sure it didn't matter if they won. if his son wasn't on the field.
Interesting.
It did, like, he's like, I don't care if we have success. If my son's not part of that success, then this isn't worth it. And then, of course, his son never continued to play baseball. As he ruined it.
It's been an interesting journey for sure. We've been kind of insulated from a lot of that drama and politics and stuff. I don't know how we managed to get around it, but I can't think of a year where that was an issue, actually.
Good for you. My whole goddamn life.
Like,
you are,
good coaches.
Well, your sister's right.
Yeah. I guess we've had a charmed life.
Now I agree with your sister, because you're a son of a bitch to me now, because I watched people fight and argue and claw for years. Oh, it was exhausting.
That's a lot.
Absolutely exhausting.
Pretty much a really positive experience for us. I mean, some coaches that weren't the best probably, but that's about as bad as it got, I think. So
I should have moved to Montana years ago.
You should have. Yeah.
All right. How much do I need to buy a reasonable house in Montana? Now I'm getting older, so it can be one story. Doesn't need to be two stories. Let's say a couple thousand square feet. I'd like a place to park my car inside, a little bit of land. What's it going to run me?
Okay. The town we live in, the median price of homes right now is $800,000 in our town.
All right. Well, the median price? So I can find one for like 1.8 there too?
Oh yeah.
Oh. And what am I living in for $500,000? A trailer with a gas bottle out front of it?
My son and his wife just it's not a trailer, it's a 900 square foot house condo. It does have its own walls, but
it does have its own walls? What do you mean?
Like they're not sharing walls, like our condo.
I know what you mean.
A condo and we share walls with other people, but they have like a little tiny yard around their little condo, and they paid $350, I think, for that. But it's not in our town. It's like 10 miles west of us.
Are they near a meth problem, or is it a nice place? It's just stuff's cheaper.
It's nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a nice little neighborhood.
I don't want to fight off a meth head. You understand?
That's the best deal you could get, but that's under 1,000 square feet.
$350, but I get my own walls, so that's fancy.
Yeah.
Now I know what you meant, by the way, but it was just the way you said it was hilarious. But I knew what you meant. I was like, "Oh, a house with walls. Do tell." All right, so somewhere between $350 and a couple of million, and how are the state taxes? Am I going to get killed? I don't make a lot off this podcast. How much of it am I going to lose?
Yeah, we don't have a sales tax, which everybody really likes, but we do have pretty high property taxes, and those keep going up. So people are pretty unhappy right now about property taxes.
So I'm not going to Montana.
Probably not. But, the town I grew up in, which is 2 hours from here, I look at their real estate all the time, and I'm like, we could sell our condo and buy a house in that town for cash.
Live like a king there, you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's only 2 hours away. It's a nice city. So.
Okay. You'll tell me the name of that privately. Privately, you'll tell me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
I would like to live like a king somewhere once.
Me too. Yeah.
Me too.
It'd be nice.
But am I going to be talking to like a guy named Bubba? Is it that far into the mountains, or what are we talking about?
Oh, it's not in the mountains. It's more urban. It's more of a city. It's Billings. It's not
Billings.
Billings, Montana. You'll probably fly. I don't know if you'll fly into there, if you'll fly into the town I live in, because I think I saw where you're going.
All right, I'll look around.
But yeah, people complain about the crime there, though. They do. I grew up there. My dad lives there. My mother-in-law lives 15 miles from there. I don't know.
Am I going to need a shotgun? I'm not up for that.
I don't know.
All right. If I get an electric car, they're going to make fun of me.
No, there's a lot of electric cars here. We've had all the outer staters move in with their electric cars, so you're good.
I see. Okay. All right. I'm just trying to understand the landscape. That's all. All right. Pam, is there anything we haven't talked about that we should have?
I was also just going to mention, as far as Emma's journey with her diabetes, another challenge that we ran into this last year was some allergies to some of the insulin that she was using. That was also extremely frustrating and kind of difficult to navigate through that. Yeah, with her T-Slim, she was really having difficulty with her sites, and she said that it hurt, it felt painful, it was itchy. So she had been on Novolog, so we switched to Humalog, and that was good for a couple months. everything was working fine. The absorption was good. And then that started to get irritated again. I'm like, we're going to run out of insulin pretty soon. And so her pediatrician put her on Apidra, which you're familiar with.
Yep.
But didn't tell us that Apidra doesn't work in a t:slim. Like, it just doesn't work. And she kind of goes back and forth sometimes anyways between t:slim and Omnipod 5, depending on her mood, sort of. So we did have to switch back to Omnipod 5 for a while. And then she decided she wanted to go back on t:slim and try the Humalog again. And she did. And it's, for some reason, now it's working. I don't understand at all, but it's been.
Apidra's not been FDA approved to work in any pump, I'm pretty sure. But
I think you're right.
Yeah, Arden's been using it in Omnipod for like a decade. So
yeah. We didn't have issues with that, but
like, what was happening? Like itching, sore sites?
Yeah, she literally said she could feel the insulin and that it felt. She actually used the word painful. Like, it felt painful to her.
Sore once she took off a pump site. Yeah, Arden experienced that with Fiasp and Lumjev. But I just figured it was something about the whatever they use to make it work faster. But then you've heard the interviews with people who have like honest to God insulin allergies, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Some of them go on to like use Afrezza and an injected basal. That works out well for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope it doesn't get to that. Do you think she's just having like, it's funny, your son's having a weird allergic reaction to something. Your daughter is. They're not related by blood, right? Yeah. Is it Montana? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, maybe.
Are they allergic to Montana?
Maybe that's what it is.
So is that settled now? You think Humalog's working?
It's working fine right now. Yeah. And I think decreasing the insulin amount also helps for sure. Like, just not having to use so much, but just keeping my fingers crossed, holding my breath. She's just been through a lot of stuff.
I was going to say, it's unfair. She's got a lot of stuff going on for sure.
That's kind of how she feels.
I would imagine. Yeah, tell her I'd feel the same way.
I'll tell her.
Yeah, that'll be of no. She'll be like, great. Who was that you're talking about? That guy that told me to use the Ozempic and I threw up? Great. Is that my fault, by the way? The Ozempic
Is it your
thing?
fault?
I mean, I brought it up, right? No,
but I did. I mean, I definitely, I mean, the more positive stories that you hear, for sure, the more you're like, we need to try this. And she just turned 18 and our insurance covers it. And like, let's give this a shot. So.
Okay. Well, again, I hope you try the other one and that it works better, or that she finds another answer. Too. I was thinking of calling this episode "F***ing Kevin Costner." What do you think?
Something like that. Yeah, for sure. Kevin Costner should be in there.
I don't think I'm allowed to curse in the titles. I think Apple would
Probably not.
I could put like an asterisk in it, maybe, or something like that.
Make it an X.
How disappointed do you think people would be if they like saw Kevin Costner in the title and they listened to this whole thing and they were like, this doesn't seem to be about anything about Kevin Costner at all? That's hilarious. I was just reminded today about one of my favorite episode titles. It's Mama Needs Her Happy or something like that or something. And I was like, somebody said that to me and all I thought was, what a great episode title. It's funny. I don't even remember what it's about. I just remember liking the title, but nevertheless, I don't know what to say. Like, she's got a couple of speed bumps there. They suck.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Are you okay? Like dealing with? No. Pam,
okay.
All right, what's happening to you?
Well, I mean, I have kind of a stressful job. The year that Emma got diagnosed was a really hard year. So I think in some ways we're sort of still just recovering from all of that. I lost my best friend to cancer in September. And then Emma was diagnosed type 1 in April. And then my father-in-law passed away in August. And then another close friend passed away just within days of my father-in-law.
Oh my God.
2021 was horrible. So, I mean, I do feel like, we're 3 years out from all of that now. We're definitely better than we were, but I have kind of a stressful job that I started working here in 2019. So I'm 5 years into this and it's definitely getting easier, but I'm in therapy and
Pam, you might be a mush. You know what that means?
What's that?
Like a mush? Like your bad luck. like you might, maybe you're the common thread between all these horrible things.
Yeah.
I'm just teasing. But no, seriously, you went to therapy.
Yeah. I'm in therapy.
Is it helping?
Yeah. yeah, it's great. I love my therapist. She's good at listening and good at asking questions and good at, helping me kind of navigate through.
Oh my gosh. Maybe it's Kevin Costner's fault.
Maybe it's Kevin Costner's fault.
I mean, seriously, they could have made that show anywhere. Why did it have to be there? You know what I mean?
So to tell you the truth, I am not a Yellowstone fan. I do not love that show. I love all the spin-offs of Yellowstone, like 1823, 1926.
Yeah, all them. Right. Yeah. But
those are good.
What about Yellowstone don't you like?
Well, I guess when you live here, it just totally hits you wrong because it's such a soap opera, like there's just all this drama and fighting over land and it's so unrealistic. The show I really like that I think frames the West a little bit better is Longmire. Have you watched Longmire?
Oh, listen to me. Don't act like I haven't seen Longmire.
Longmire's the best.
I COVID watched the Longmire, no problem. I was disappointed when it was over. What do you think of that? Yeah.
I think I've watched it like 3 times all the way through. But Yellowstone, I watched it because I felt like I had to understand what
people were talking about.
Yeah.
I watched Longmire and then watched other Katie Sackhoff TV shows because of that.
Oh,
the blonde girl? You know who I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what else she's been in.
Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, okay.
All kinds of stuff. My goodness.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and tell you, I don't know that Longmire is a good TV show, but I loved it.
I love it.
Yeah. Really?
I love the writing and I love the scenery and
I enjoyed the hell out of it. I really did.
Yeah.
So you're saying Yellowstone, you're trying to tell me that rich people in Montana aren't murdering each other in office buildings?
I don't think so. Yeah, not on the daily.
No. They're not throwing rattlesnakes at people in rivers to kill them?
No.
Wait, this is crazy. Hold on a second.
You're going to be so disappointed when you come out here.
There's not a road in Montana where you throw dead bodies off of?
I don't know. There could be.
God damn. Imagine if all this is true and you're just like finding out right now. You know what I mean? That's terrible. I didn't expect any of that was true. But I do. All the spinoffs are terrific.
They're really good.
Yeah. Very good. So, all right. Well, all right then. Yeah. This is Kevin Costner's fault for sure. We'll blame him. Actually, have you ever watched the movie that the guy who made Yellowstone made, Hell or High Water?
I don't think so.
Try that one. You might like that.
Okay.
All right.
I'll write that down.
My dog is barking, which means this is over.
Okay. Sounds good, Scott. It was really nice to talk to you.
Yeah, you too, Pam. Hold on 1 second for me, okay?
Okay.
Thanks. Arden started using a contour meter because of its accuracy, but she continues to use it because it's durable and trustworthy. If you have diabetes, you want the Contour NextGen blood glucose meter. There's already so many decisions. Let me take this one off your plate. ContourNext.com/juicebox. I want to thank the Eversense CGM for sponsoring this episode of the Juicebox Podcast and invite you to go to eversensecgm.com/juicebox to learn more about this terrific device. You can head over now and just absorb everything that the website has to offer, and that way you'll know if Eversense feels right for you. eversensecgm.com/juicebox. Did you know if just one person in your family has type 1 diabetes, you're up to 15 times more likely to get it too? So screen it like you mean it. One blood test can spot type 1 diabetes early. Tap now, talk to a doctor, or visit screen4type1.com for more info. Once there was a time when I just told people, if you want a low and stable A1C, just listen to the Juicebox Podcast. But as the years went on and the podcast episodes grew, it became more and more difficult for people to listen to every one. So I made the Diabetes Pro Tip series. This series is with me and Jenny Smith. Jenny is a certified diabetes care and education specialist. She's also a registered and licensed dietitian and a type 1 herself for over 30 years. And I, of course, am the father of a child who was diagnosed at age 2 in 2006. Head now to juiceboxpodcast.com. Go up in the menu at the top and click on Diabetes Pro Tip. Or if you're in the private Facebook group, there's a list of these episodes right in the featured tab. Find out how I help keep my daughter's A1C between 5.2 and 6.2 for the last 10 years without diet restrictions. JuiceboxPodcast.com. Start listening today. It's absolutely free. Hey, thanks for listening all the way to the end. I really appreciate your loyalty and listenership. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back very soon with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. Hey, what's up, everybody? If you've noticed that the podcast sounds better and you're thinking like, how does that happen? What you're hearing is Rob at Wrong Way Recording doing his magic to these files. So if you want him to do his magic to you, wrongwayrecording.com. You got a podcast? You want somebody to edit it? You want Rob.